All right, hey guys, Josiah here with EasyCaters.com, and today I need to just go over some of the day trades from today, and I also realized that I had not yet done a monthly review of signals from last month, from April, so I wanted to go over those in case any of those are going to be setting up some signals for this month. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the monthly chart, and then we'll look at some day trades here. So on the monthly, we've got CNC had a pretty significant volume turn signal last month in April, um, and you can see here. So we had some volume here, and let me just zoom in on the monthly. I hope you guys can see this. I kind of want to use the multiple time frames, so I'll try to record this on a high enough resolution that you guys can see everything. But anyway, so we have this volume level here on the monthly. From prior, we went way up above that. We're retracing down into that area on the monthly chart, and so we put in this volume churn right at that level. And so this downtrend that we're currently in on the shorter time frames, like the daily here, it's still in effect. But if we can start breaking over these highs in here in the daily, then this can start shaping up into like maybe a rounded bottom. You know, we can put in a higher high, higher low, and then start winding our way around and turning that back around perhaps. So keep an eye on that one. I don't think there's a particular trigger here. You could buy this on a break above the open of this of April's candle, but I don't know. I would probably just wait for a more uh, for the daily and the weekly to kind of clean up a little bit, for us to see a higher high at least, and then maybe buy that pullback to the presumptive higher low that might happen there. So that might be a setup that you could consider on CNC. So the context is there for, you know, some volume stepping in, saying that, you know, we've got some support there, at least of some sort. So the probabilities are leaning more in our favor toward, you know, a long, um, you know, over the next coming months. Like this is a longer term chart, so it's a longer term trade. So, you know, we could imagine that there might be a retest back up into here where the original breakdown happened to this original uptrend. So, you know, there might be some supply up there that needs to be taken back out. So a long back up into that range in the 60, 65 range. Let's see here, the low of this, kind of the 61 to 65 range, it looks like might be a supply area on that monthly. So a long back up into there could be a potential, but that is a longer term, you know, probably a month or two kind of trade at least. Now, GIS, General Mills, we have a monthly signal last month, kind of up at this prior low. As you can see here, we came down, volume stopped there, volume stopped there. Anyway, so we're retesting this prior volume pivot level, and we put in churn volume right at that level. And so right now, to me, the probabilities are for a test back down into this area to see if there's going to be some more support down there. So I would kind of expect a monthly pullback down into the highs of this basing pattern where we broke above that high to put in a higher high in that downtrend and see if we can grab some support there. So I would wait for a pullback into that area, you know, around the 47 at least, and see if we can put in another volume signal there on a weekly or something as a signal to get in. MU, looks like we had a signal on MU. This looks more like supply right now to me on the monthly. I know MU has been oversold and a kind of a value stock in the recent past here. It's probably not too bad still. But right now it's looking like we're hitting some resistance up here at this prior volume level, it looks like. And so I would expect to see a little bit of a pullback before trying any higher. But anything can happen. This is just my read on how things are currently shaping up. On the daily, we've had this nice pullback kind of pattern where we had volume down at the lows here, burst up, volume down at the lows again, put in a new high, doing these kind of complex pullbacks here. No strong volume signal. There was a little bit of a signal there on the daily leading to this current move that we're experiencing right now. So we kind of have yet to see if that's going to pan out. So on Momo, this one's not so strong of a signal on my screen here. It looks like we're kind of up here testing this supply zone from these high pivots. And so I would say nothing to do there other than perhaps a short back down into the lower area of this range. And so that's not something that I do, but that's how you guys trade, then that might be the direction that the odds are leaning right now. Let's see here, BMY. So we've got several volume signals here. So we had volume step in at the low of this range. So this one's a little difficult. We got a volume level here on, you can see it on the quarterly. We had a churn quarter last quarter, and the monthly levels, you can see them pretty easily here around this 50. And we've broken below the 50 and put in some more churn volume. And it looks like we're bouncing off of that right now back up into the 50 level. And so if we can get back over these closes and opens up here, that's going to start looking a lot better. We really need to put in that higher high for this to be a bottom. But this is kind of like the first signal semblance of a bottoming out pattern here. And so we'll have to see on that. But yeah, the daily, we've had this kind of small zigzags happening. We broke above that, and you can see there was some churn as we broke through that level. And so now we're having a trend day today, trying to get back up in here. So anyway, that one is a potential buy. Just keep an eye on it, and we are at this level where support has stepped up before, so it's not bad. Roku. This looks like supply to me. I don't have enough history on my chart right here to show it on the with the volume signal, but this looks like it's up into a supply zone, and we're putting in a little bit of volume churn. So if you have some other method of determining a bias on Roku, whether you think it's undervalued or whatever, then I would rely on that right now. It looks like we've had some volume down here on the weekly, had some volume up here at the highs on the weekly, and now we've kind of come back off that. We're bouncing up, and we're hitting churn again. That looks like supply to me, but it can, if there's enough buyers that are desperate, then it can go in either direction. So let's see here. On ExxonMobil, we had a supply situation over here in the last 2 months, and then we broke it this month already in the first couple of days of this month. You can see a nice churn bar down here at the lows on the daily, and then we broke below that strongly, and we've sold off. So that triggered the monthly sell, and so we have, I would say, at least down into here in the maybe 75 range, 73, 50, something like that, to go on ExxonMobil, and so that's what the monthly is looking like right now. JD, I'm not seeing a really strong signal there. This could be some supply coming in. I don't really see much of a level there even, so I'm not really sure on that one. CTRP, we had a churn signal kind of at this level here, so that looks like we're churning through some supply from the prior breakdown area here. And so this probably needs a little more time, but it looks like it's trying to work its way through and see if we can get a breakout. Otherwise, the default right now is going to be a short, because we did this kind of zigzag down on the monthly. We're coming back up and testing a supply area, and so this will probably come back down for a little bit anyway until we find some more support. As far as dialing that in a little bit, there might be some support down here in the 40, trying to look here, 41-ish level. There probably is going to be some demand there, and so we'll have to see if it gets back down to there. I don't think there's anything immediate to do on that one. So on NVDA, we've had a kind of weekly bottoming, small bottoming pattern here. Broke out of that. We're hitting into some supply, pulled back off that, and it looks like at that small supply area, we've had a little bit of a churn bar show up. So this could, if we can get a break above that high, that can be kind of, like the same way of CTRP. If we can get a break above that high, then that turns into a 1, 2, 3 continuation pattern back up toward the highs of this original pivot. But and so you can see here on CTRP, it has kind of the same look to it. I think the NVDA looks a little better, but so that's that. Its bias is kind of lower right now, but if we can get a break above the highs, then that's a strong continuation kind of setup. WFC. So we're getting a volume signal down here at these lows where volume has shown up before. I always like to see that. And so a break over this monthly high could be good. And you can see down here we're also doing kind of a weekly bottoming pattern, kind of like a double bottom. And it looks like on the daily we had a churn bar up here, we pulled back off of that. We've had several attempts to go higher. This one might fail or it might work. We got to get above those highs up there to confirm to confirm a breakout there. VZ. So we got a churn bar on a wider range last month. So that one is not super clean for me. And I don't really see much to do with that. Pulling back down on the daily here, kind of into this W pattern, double bottom type of pattern and an uptrend. We've got a churn area here on the weekly. If I zoom in here, maybe you can see it a little better. We had kind of an area of churn right here after we did this double bottom pattern. Broke out, coming back down and retesting that. There's some daily churn showing up, and so this could be a continuation higher. Nothing super clean yet. Maybe as this weekly bar finishes, as the close of the day happens, maybe that will look a little bit better. I'm doing this a little earlier in the day today because I'm heading out of town for a wedding, so I wanted to get this wrapped up, get the week wrapped up for everyone. COP, ConocoPhillips, had some supply in here, sold off last month, and on the weekly, now we're just kind of down at the bottom of this range. Not really anything to do right now. Last month was kind of a wider range bar, so it's not very strong of a signal. This Alcoa, kind of having this volume come in at this low. You can see it on the daily here. People have been kind of snatching up shares on the low of this range. Broke below these prior two pivots here, and we're still above this original pivot at the beginning of the range. So if this can hold, maybe we get a volume churn signal this week. If as this weekly bar closes, then that might be a good signal if we break back above it next week. LB, several volume signals in a row here on the monthly. You can see this tiny candles volume picked up last 2 months ago, and then it's pretty high the last 3 months in general. So this is kind of a longer term bottoming pattern, it looks like, but this could go either way because it's not really not testing up at these highs anymore at this point. So you would really need a confirmation back up above these highs for a longer term trade. This on the daily, nothing setting up currently. There was a little bit of churn down here yesterday above this range on the daily chart. Looks a little bit better, but again, we're kind of in a downtrend, and so that's going to need some time to work itself out. Mile, MYL, downtrending, put in some volume, and you can see there's a prior level right here as well. So, you know, orders, some buyers stepped up here at this prior level, and this could result in the bottoming out of the downtrend and a reversal over the long term, like I said, but it's looking like it's going to need a little bit more time. This last month's bar was a pretty good signal bar, and so a break above that can make things start looking a little better, but again, we are still on a downtrend, so this is the target on that's going to be limited until we get a full rounding out pattern and get that turned all the way around. EQT, this is a downtrender on the monthly, put in volume several months ago, a little bit kind of up in the highs here last month. And so, yeah, essentially this is a weekly bottoming pattern that if we trigger above this churn bar, then that looks pretty good for a reversal on the weekly. On the monthly, it is pretty good if we get that break above last month's candle. So that could trigger a reversal longer term. But again, probably take some profits earlier on this since we are in a downtrend. This would be kind of the first target area around 25, 26. AMRN, not really seeing much there. Some of these are weaker signals. So let's start with the greens down here. Yeah, that one's already triggered. Not seeing much there. This was a 1, 2, 3 continuation setup, and then we've got another churn bar here last month, and we're trying to trigger above that, but we've got some overhead supply issues here that I don't think make this a really great trade as a continuation. You're probably going to bump into supply right up in here, and so there's not really a great risk to reward anymore, and we've already triggered it anyway, but and we're extended beyond that. So this really needs to rest, as far as I can tell, and give a new pullback setup. BABA, churn bar up at the highs here, broke above that. This month, we're early in the month, remember, so this can do anything after this. So this could look like a topping tail in a few days. It always just, depends on how things go. But yeah, so this is kind of turning into one of those 1, 2, 3 continuations, but we'll have to see if that plays out. This is not an ideal kind of location for me for one of those because we're right up into a supply area. If we were on top of that, coming back to retest it from above, that would be a different story. Monster Beverage. So this has been a really nice one. So I had mentioned it down here on the daily, turned into a nice daily swing trade up into this range. Then we had earnings and on this pullback. And so now we're gapping up substantially, and that should be second target for second or third target there, depending on how you manage this. So that one worked really well. And let's see here on the weekly bottoming pattern. Yeah. So yeah, this is essentially just the daily setup showing up on the monthly chart. You can see the volume down here, that and then some churn that showed up here that all played into this bar. And so this month is not really a monthly setup. It's just just that volume on the lower time frame showing up. CBS had some strong volume signals the last 2 months. So it appears that somebody is buying as we fall off a cliff here, but this is way too early to contemplate a complete reversal. So I would be watching for a longer term type of pattern to show up here on the monthly. This is probably going to be a level, but in that overall pattern, but it's probably not ready for anything of a short-term trade as of yet. Love. This is kind of a nice little pullback here. So we had volume supply come in up here, traded off, put in a churn bar at the low of this prior level here. And so this is really it's a nice pullback, but it's not really the nicest location for that. But if we can get a good close above here, that could be good. And then ultimately we need to take out this high pivot here in order to get a really good trade going. Nothing there on the monthly. KHC, some volume signals down here at this base. And we had this gap down on earnings. A lot of volume stepping in and holding it here for now. And so this could mount a reversal back up into here and start forming a base to try to get things turned back around. But unless you're one of those really aggressive traders, that's probably not something I would look at. Nothing there. MPC, that looks kind of nice. Got an uptrend. Volume kind of started that on that pullback. Volume up here in the highs, pulling back to this prior volume level, and you're seeing the volume churn come back again. You can see there's a high pivot here. When we broke above that, we churned through a lot of volume. Broke up, now coming back to test that same area, and so that is a potential little monthly trend setup. So and the potential is up here into this 80, 82 area where the breakdown happened from before. So a break above this green candle, last month's candle, could be a nice signal to go long. And so keep an eye on that. MPC, WLL, nothing really good there on the monthly. There's definitely some volume stepping in at this level, but this is such a long-term base that I would probably want to stay away from that and only buy it if you're a really long-term holder. NBL, yeah, that's kind of the high of a pivot, and so this looks like supply to me, but it coming from these multiple volume candles, it's kind of hard to say. So that one's not really that clear. CCL, last one here. So we're pulling down into a quarterly area of volume. You can see that on the quarterly chart. Volume shown up there several times. So this looks a lot like that MPC, but on the quarterly chart. So if we can get the volatility to decrease a little bit more here on the quarterly, this starts to look a little better. The monthly doesn't look too clean right now because there's not a super great risk to reward ratio going on right now. So I would wait for that to clean up a little bit. but that one is definitely looking like a nice pullback. So I probably want to earmark that one on my swing trading account watch list and keep an eye on that one on MPC. So that is the monthly signals. Hopefully that's helpful. I know that's going through signals. A lot of those are not really ready for a trade, but kind of keeps like these. These are the right kind of location in a trend for a buy to happen, where the risk to reward is greatest, back up into this high area, and the probabilities of the uptrend are in your favor. So this is kind of like the ideal buy, and you're seeing also the volume coming in showing that there are buyers there alongside you. So these are the types of setups that I look for. There are a lot of those that don't have that type of setup, that just have a one-off volume signal, and so those are not as high quality to me. And so hopefully that makes sense. You want to get a volume signal in a location that makes sense in general. Otherwise, it's just kind of noise to your trading plan. So daily setup. So let me just run through the daily and switch over to my short-term charts. This is what I was doing today. So MDLZ, I didn't trade this one, but I looked back as I was scrolling through my watch list, and you can see that there was there was a supply area up here near this high, or near the open. So we put in some supply, fell off of that. There was a little bit of a churn signal here on this bar, but not much. So this is on the 5-minute chart. And so we took off from there, put in a new high of the day, and then pulled back right to this original churn area. So I really like this. This had a churn area here that showed back up as we broke out, pulled back to that, put in these churn candles, and there was, you could also see it on the 10. And so a trade back from that pullback up into these highs made a lot of sense, just like in those longer term charts I was looking at. So that is MDLZ, SO. So this one I was keeping an eye on early this morning. You can see it was nice indecision churn on the hourly 30, and we had this kind of 1, 2, 3 trigger on the 20. The 15 had a nice churn bar, and the 10 is probably the best absolute entry that you could have gotten right here at this indecision candle on the last, on the third 10-minute bar of the day. And that one worked for 2 hours. Then we had this inside pullback that happened here. That one would have worked as well. And then it just kind of been giving these 5-minute signals all the way up today. And so that's worked really well. So that was one I was trading earlier. Starbucks, I didn't trade this one, but I noticed this nice little pullback off here. On the 20, it's really clean, where you've got a 60 churn, a 30 churn, and then the 20, it just kind of cleaned itself up, gave you a nice risk to reward back up for an uptrend. It kind of the volatility really decreased a lot, so that it gave a better setup. And so on the 20, it was probably the best, of the 15 here. ON. So there was a nice 10-minute here, 5-minute here, nice little pullback after we put in the new high of the day. And it looks like it's put in a 30-minute right here. That would have been probably good as well, since it was at the lower area of this range. I didn't see that one until just now. AXP. Been trending all day, and the trend was kind of kicked off by this 1, 2, 3 continuation pattern on the 30-minute, and it had a nice 10-minute pullback. Showed up on the 5 as well. That one wasn't quite as clean as I'd like to see, but it was at this prior level, so that was kind of nice. And that one just hasn't given you much opportunity since then to get back in it. EQT, I took a trade on this right here. I think it was right. Yeah, it was right here. So you can see it on the 10-minute chart showed up. We're down here at the bottom of this range after we broke out, put in a new high, pulled back to the original high of the day, And volume has just been telling you exactly where to place your orders there. And so I noticed this looked really good on this pullback. I caught it right here, and so that's looked pretty good. CTRP, and this one, we just had this kind of one pullback here that would have given you some possibilities for entry. And you can kind of see here, we put in a volume churn bar here on the 5, broke above it, pulled back to it, and put in another volume churn just above it so that the bids were stepping up a little bit there. And so we went up, we put in some resistance at this high, pulled back again to the same candle area here, bid stepped up again and trend the rest of the day. PG, last one here. And so this one had nice churn on the open on several time frames, cleaned itself up on the 20 here and the 30. And that 30-minute was pretty good if you had bought over the close of the second 30-minute bar. You can also see it on this 10-minute. There was this kind of volume showing up as we round out this pullback, and this 10-minute bar right here worked really well. Highest churn, worked for 2 Rs immediately, and when we pulled back off of the initial breakout, came right back into that breakout area, put in another volume bar, and that one worked really well as well. So that's what I was watching today. Last couple of days have been kind of these down days in the market and not a lot of trades for somebody like me that trades on the long side currently only. And so I've been trying to stay away from the market the last 2 days. I did take a loss yesterday of about 2 Rs, I think, because I was getting too aggressive with some of those. And then the day prior, I think, was Fed day, so that was part of the reason there was the range behavior, kind of mean reversion type of behavior. And so breakouts were constantly failing on that day until the Fed came out, and then we had a sell-off. So that's been my week. Not the greatest week. Looked a little bit better after today, so that's nice to always end the week a little bit better than on a positive note going into the weekend. So that's where we're at today, and that's your monthly update. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks, guys.